What's up, Marinos? This is Abhilash Thakur and welcome back to Sailor's Guide. Well guys, we have covered our journey up to rule number 18. Now we will move one step forward, that is rule number 19, conduct of vessel in restricted visibility. Well, this part comes under section 3 of part B. Well, part B is steering and sailing rules. Well, all of this content of ROR I have covered in the video content of ROR, which is the first video of this series. You need to watch that video first. Please do watch that video first, then you come up to this video again. Okay, because you need to understand the content of ROR before started learning the ROR. That is very, very important. Now, I will just give you brief here that this rule comes under section 3 of part B, that is steering and sailing rules. Well, steering and sailing rules is from rule number 4 to rule number 19, and there are more subcategories comes under this. That is, first from rule number 4 to rule number 10, it is conduct of vessel in all condition of visibility. From rule number 11 to rule number 18, conduct of vessel in sight of one another, and rule number 19 is conduct of vessel in restricted visibility. So when the restricted visibility, the following rules will apply. So we will apply all the rules from rule number 4 to rule number 10, which is all condition of visibility, and we will apply rule number 19. So these rules will apply in restricted visibility. So now we will start with the rule. We will start with the rule first part, that is A part, and I will read it out for you. As in the book, A part says this rule applies to the vessel not in sight of one another when navigating in or near the area of restricted visibility. So A part is telling us where this rule will apply. This will apply when you are not in sight of one another, when you are in restricted visibility or navigating near to the area of restricted visibility. It can be a situation that you are in clear state of visibility right now, but you can see ahead that there is a fog, there is a rain, okay, and there is one vessel inside that fog, inside that rain. Well, that vessel is inside the restricted visibility. It means that rule will apply on that vessel, and also you are navigating near that area. Still you are outside the restricted visibility, but you are navigating near that area. You will follow the rule number 19 for taking action. Okay, so this is about the A part, which is quite simple. Now let's jump onto the B part here. The B part in the book says every vessel shall proceed at safe speed adapted to the prevailing circumstances and condition of restricted visibility. A power driven vessel shall have her engines ready for the immediate maneuver. Alright guys, so they have nothing said anything special here. Well, we have covered in rule number 6 also safe speed, that a vessel need to proceed at safe speed at all times. And also we have covered that there are factors on which the safe speed depends. If you remember, the one of the factor is visibility there. So here they have mentioned the same thing. When the visibility is restricted, you need to reduce the speed and come to the safe speed, of course, because you cannot go navigation full in restricted visibility because you may hit someone. So you need to reduce the speed and come to the safe speed as the visibility is restricted. Okay, now they have added one more point, that the power driven vessel shall keep her engines ready for immediate maneuver. Now, you know what is a power driven vessel? A vessel propelled by machinery. So if you are a power driven vessel, which is mostly in cases you are a power driven vessel, so you need to keep your engines ready for immediate maneuver. Now what does that mean? So there is a small concept behind this immediate maneuver. Now I think you already might know, when you are out at sea, when you are in an open sea, you increase speed up to higher RPMs. After certain RPM, you cannot increase the speed much faster, you know, when the response is not much faster. Now actually what happens when you start increasing the RPM from stop to dead slow to slow ahead to half ahead to full ahead, the RPM, as soon as you are increasing on the telegraph lever, the actual RPM is also increasing very quickly because it will follow up very quickly. So let's say if you have moved from slow ahead to RPM, half ahead RPM, let's say from 35 to 50 RPM, as soon as you move the lever to half ahead, about in 4-5 seconds, that RPM will obviously come to 50. From 35 it will straight away come to 50 RPM. The 15 RPM will increase immediately in about 4 to 5 seconds. But at higher RPM it doesn't happen, because at higher RPM, after certain RPM, there is a safety feature will get activated automatically. That RPM can vary, depends upon the vessel to vessel. Let's say we take an example that we take that RPM 67. So you want to go at 75 RPM now. Until 67 the RPM will increase very quickly. As soon as you move the lever, it will follow up. But after 67, what will happen? That load program will activate it. Even if you put the lever directly to 75, it will not go to 75 directly. It will increase gradually. That system will make RPM slowly increasing. Okay. like 1 rpm in a minute, or maybe 1 rpm in 2 minutes, just like that. So the same story will happen when you start reducing the rpm. When you start reducing from 75, let's say you put directly to 60 in immediate situation, in emergency situation you have put from 75 to 60, the rpm will not come down because there is a load limitation. The load program is activated and it will reduce rpm slowly. Okay, up to 67 it will come very slowly, then after that very immediately it will come to 60, but up to 67 it will go slowly and slowly. Well, there is also a function where you can bypass this limit. You can just press that button which will be nearby your telegraph, press this cancel limits, and all the limits will be off. It will immediately come down, but that will be bypassing the safety system. Okay, it may cause some damage to the machineries in engine room, you don't know, but for immediate situation you can do that. Also, there is one aspect to this concept, that engine blowers will start automatically at certain rpm, at lower rpms. It will automatically get start because they need to pump in more air to the engine for combustion. Okay, so at higher rpm it is not required, so they get automatically cut off, but they need to get on when the engine require more air, so they will pump in more air by using the blowers. But blowers consume too much electricity, it demands too much electricity. So out at sea you might be on only one generator, and as soon as this blowers will start, the voltage will jump. It will demand more power from the generator, and maybe generator will not able to cope up this demand, and the blackout will happen. We have no power for some time until this emergency generator will switch on. You will have no power. That is a disaster. You don't want to do that. So that is why you need to keep your engines ready at all times in restricted visibility, because there can be a situation where you need to reduce immediately and you don't want to face this kind of situation. So you will check for the rpm at which this load programs get activated. So now you need to keep your rpm lower than this load program, because you don't want to go higher than that, because after this rpm it will take time to reduce the rpm. You need to keep the rpm lower rpm. Also, if you are proceeding at the high rpms, you will be going with a higher speed, and that will also be conflicting with the rule 6 and section of B of this part, that you will not be in safe speed. So that is what it means, that you need to keep your engines ready. Well, I know this concept is quite long, but you need to understand this thing because it is a practical thing which you will follow in your ships. Okay, alright guys, so now we will jump onto the C part now. So C part, as per the book, says every vessel shall have due regards to the prevailing circumstances and conditions of restricted visibility when complying with the rules of the section 1 of this part. So in this part they have clearly said when you are following the section 1. So the section 1 is rule number 4 to rule number 10, which are conduct of vessel in all condition of visibility. It means in any condition of visibility these rules will apply. So in any case, when you are in restricted visibility, these rules still be applicable, but you need to take care that you are in restricted visibility and you need to take actions according to the rule number 19. Okay, of course all the rules from 4 to 10 will apply, but also rule number 19 will also be applied for taking actions. Okay, so this is about the C part, and now we will jump onto the most important part of this rule, that is D part. In this part they have described what actions you need to avoid when you are navigating in restricted visibility. Well, the first I will read out this rule for you, and after that we will go in the explanation, and I will use a paper to explain the things, to explain some situations also, to make this part understandable to you, because this part is very important, because they have described what actions to avoid the collision and to avoid the close quarter situations in restricted visibility. So now we will jump onto the D part. Let's read it out. A vessel which detects by radar alone the presence of another vessel shall determine if a close quarter situation is developing and or a risk of collision exists. If so, she shall take avoiding action in ample time, provided that when such action consists of an alteration of course, so far as possible the following shall be avoided. First, an alteration of course to port for a vessel forward of the beam other than for a vessel being overtaken. Second, an alteration of course towards the vessel, abeam or abaft the beam. Okay, so now they have talked about the two actions you need to avoid when you are navigating in the restricted visibility. So the conditions are here that if you are detecting the presence of the vessel by radar alone, you cannot see it, just on the radar you have observed there is one vessel and you have plotted that target on the radar, and you have come to know that it is a risk of collision and the close quarter situation may arise with this target. So of course you need to take the action now. Now action to be taken in ample time, that we have covered in rule number 8 also. And if the action is consist of alteration, it means the avoiding action is a alteration of course, then you have to avoid two alterations. Okay, first one, if the vessel is the forward of your beam, if the vessel, any target vessel is the forward of your beam, then you will never alter to the port, you will always go to the starboard. Okay, and if the vessel is above the beam and you have detected that vessel on the radar and it is above the beam, for that vessel you will never alter towards that vessel, you will always alter away from it. Okay, let's say there is a vessel on your port quarter, then you go to the starboard, and if the vessel is on your starboard quarter, then you go to the port. Similarly, when the vessel is forward of the beam, let's say it is on the port bow, you go starboard. For again, if the vessel on the starboard bow, you will also go starboard, because for the forward of the beam you will never alter the port, you will always alter to the starboard. Except there is one situation, if you are overtaking that vessel, you have plotted that target on the radar and you come to know that you are overtaking that vessel, in that situation you can go to the port. Other than that, you will never go to the port. Okay, only for the situations when you are overtaking a vessel which you came to know by plotting that target on the radar, because in overtaking rule number 13, which will not be applicable in this rule because it comes under the section in sight of one another and we are in restricted visibility, but in that rule we have learned only when you see the stern light and when you are above 22.5 degrees of that vessel, then only you are overtaking that vessel. But here we cannot see the vessel, here we cannot see the stern light, here we are just detecting the vessel by radar alone. They have mentioned that thing here. So by plotting that vessel on the radar by using ARP or by using your radar plotting, you came to know that you are overtaking that vessel. For that vessel you can go to the port. Now I will explain all these situations on the paper for better understanding, so let's move on to that.
Let's say this is your radar screen and you are here in the center. Obviously when you are in radar you are in the center. We can also offset it here, wherever you want, but let's say we are in the center now. What I will do for better understanding, I'll just divide this radar screen into 4 parts. Okay, I'll do like this. Alright, so now there are 4 sections here. Let's say this is your heading, any heading, let's say it's 000, you're heading this way, and you are in the center. This is your heading line. Now let's say that your vessel is here and someone is here in restricted visibility. Now what actions you will take as per the D part for the vessel forward of your beam? Now this is your beam. Okay, so that is why I made this line for your better understanding. This is your beam. Now this vessel is forward of your beam. Okay, for this vessel you will go to the starboard, you will not alter to the port as per the part D which we have learned. And also this vessel, for this vessel, this is her beam, you are also forward of her beam, she will also go to the starboard. In restricted visibility both vessels need to take the action. She will also go to the starboard, you will also go to the starboard, you will get clear. Okay, now let's say now the vessel is here and she is also approaching, risk of collision is there. Now what action you will do? For this vessel, she is forward of your beam, you will again go to the starboard. For this vessel, you are also forward of her beam, she will go to the starboard, and you can be clear. Here let's say she's on your headline coming down. Okay, now for that vessel of course you will go to the starboard because forward of the beam. For that vessel you are also forward of the beam, she will also go to the starboard. Okay, this is the avoiding action you take. Now let's say there is vessel above the beam. Let's say there is a vessel above the beam and there is one more here. For this vessel you will never alter towards it, you will go away from it, so you go starboard. Okay, and there is another situation when this vessel is here on this side, you will go to the port. Okay, now for this vessel you are forward of the beam, she will go to starboard, and she will go to also starboard, because for this vessel you are forward of the beam. So you will go this side for this vessel, and this vessel will go this side. Getting clear? For this vessel she is going this side, you are going port side. Okay, so now we can make here, for the vessel who are here on this quadrant, you will always go starboard. This side also go starboard. This side also go to starboard. But for this side, if the vessel was in this quadrant, you will go to port. Okay, so the three sides will be starboard side and one side is port side. For the vessel which are on starboard side of your above the beam, for this quadrant, you will go to the port. That's how you can learn. That's how it will be easy to you to understand. Starboard, 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 and this side port. But there is one more situation now, which we have learned in the overtaking situation, which we have learned in the D part, first part, overtaking situation. For the vessel being overtaken, you can go to the port. Okay, so let's say there is another vessel which is coming from here and she is overtaking you. For this vessel, you will go to the starboard, of course. But this vessel can go to the port, okay, because she is overtaking you. She has the exceptional case. She can go to the port and get clear. Either she can go to the starboard. But the problem is, if she goes to the starboard, you are also going to the starboard, you are going parallel like this, you see. So for the vessel being overtaken, this vessel is overtaking you, she can go to the port to avoid the situation, because she knows that you are going to the starboard, because you have to go away from her, as this vessel is above your beam. She knows that you will go starboard, so she can go port. As simple as that. Why she would go to the starboard? To make trouble. Now there is another situation. This vessel is here and overtaking from starboard side. Now she can go to the starboard and she will go to the port, because she knows that you are going to port for her and she can go to the starboard. She has option to go to the port, but here it will create a trouble for going to the port, because you will also go to the port, she will also go to the port. That is not a good decision. A good decision is to go to the starboard. So for vessel who are overtaking, has option to go to the port. Okay, but for other vessels, if any vessel is forward of the beam, they cannot go to the port, they need to go to the starboard. Okay, this is what they are trying to explain here. So I think this explanation might clear your head, and if you have any doubt, you put down in the comment section. But I think it's very simple. First and most important, for each quadrant you go to starboard, 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 and then the port. But for the vessel who are overtaking you, or maybe you are overtaking someone, you can go to the port as per the situation. Basically, if you are overtaking from the port side, you can go to the port, and if you are overtaking from the starboard side, better go to the starboard. Okay, because you know the vessel who is forward, she will go to the port away from you, because you are above the beam. Okay, this is all about the situations in restricted visibility. Mind you that both the vessel need to take the action here. There is no give way vessel and standing on vessel, because this is not in sight of one another. This is restricted visibility. There are no give way vessel and stand on vessels. Both of them need to take the action.
Alright guys, so this is about the D part. Now we will move on to the next part, that is the last part of it, that is E part. So E part, as the book says, except where it has been determined that a risk of collision does not exist, every vessel which hears apparently forwards of her beam the fog signal of another vessel, or which cannot avoid a close quarter situation with another vessel forward of her beam, shall reduce her speed to minimum, at which she can kept on her course. She shall, if necessary, take all her way off, and in any event navigate with extreme caution until the danger of collision is over. Here they have talked very clearly that if you hear a fog signal forward of your beam, not above the beam but forward of your beam, if you hear any signal, then you reduce the speed up to minimum at which you can keep your course, because for keeping the course, for steering the vessel, you need some speed. If your speed is very less, you will not able to steer the ship. So you need some minimum speed to steer the ship. That much speed you can maintain and proceed with extreme caution. If needed, you need to stop the vessel, or you can go reverse. It means you can go astern on your engine to stop the vessel, to reduce your speed immediately, to avoid the collision or to avoid the close quarter situation. and also you will keep this speed minimum until the danger is past. It's not like that it has come onto your bow, now you start increasing. Until that situation is over, until you are very well clear, until then you will keep your speed at minimum and you proceed with extreme caution. Okay, so basically you can alter the course and you can reduce the speed in restricted visibility. For alteration of courses, there are some things that you need to avoid. For reducing the speed, it is when you hear any fog signal forward of your beam, you need to reduce the speed or maybe stop and go reverse on your propulsion so that you can avoid the collision and risk of collision, and you need to wait until that danger is past and clear. You need to proceed with caution. Okay, that is what they have mentioned here. But here one more important thing they have mentioned, that except where the risk of collision does not exist. It means if the risk of collision does not exist with another vessel, when you have plotted that vessel and you find out that it is already well clear, it is your forward of your beam and you can hear the fog signal, but risk of collision does not exist. You have plotted that on the radar and it is clear. For that you do not need to reduce the speed, because obviously when there is no risk of collision, why you need to take the action? You don't need to take the action until there is a risk of collision. That we have learned in rule number 7 already. If you find this video helpful, guys, please press the like button and subscribe my channel. Please press the notification bell and all notification to get all the videos which are coming up next. So do not miss on these things, because these are very, very important information. And also, if you want to know more about Merchant Navy or any questions about Merchant Navy, you can put down into the comment section below, and you have any doubts, I can try to make the videos on those topics. So okay guys, this is all about this video. I will see you in the next video. This is Abhilash Thakur signing off.